マスクはずっとしてた方がいい。
喋るときは外してください。はい。よいしょ。Okay, let's get started. Welcome to a press conference at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan. My name is Teddy Jimbo. I'm co-chair of the committee that organizes the media events at this club, along with my colleague on the other end of the table, Pio D'Emilia. He's also co-chair. And we will co-moderate today's event. And our speaker, of course, is the Mr. Taro Kono. Actually, I should probably call him today's speaker is Kono Taro instead of Taro Kono. I have a reason for that. I had opportunity to talk. Well, I just want to give you one example of his seriousness about reforms. Okay, I had an opportunity to talk to a new foreign minister, Yoshimasa Hayashi. He showed me his name card as a foreign minister. He was kind of showing off, that name card as a foreign minister. It says Hayashi Yoshimasa instead of Yoshimasa Hayashi in English. Okay, and I asked him, since when did the foreign ministry use this name order, the last name first and first name last? I mean, we do that. They do that in China and Korea, but Japan always in English, we call we make first name come first, right? Then it's Mr. Kono. Mr. Kono overcame the opposition from the bureaucrats and made it come true. And also, he was looking forward to his trip to WTO, which was canceled because of this pandemic just recently. But he was looking for the trip because Mr. Kono, when he was a foreign minister, bought a new airplane dedicated for the foreign minister for the first time, which was almost unthinkable. I mean, dedicated airplane for the foreign minister, but now if you become a foreign minister, you get to have your own airplane, and that's the thing another thing that Mr. Kono made it true. So anyway, he's a known reformist and maybe a bit too radical for the LDP today. So he was very popular among the party members as well as the general public, but his fellow lawmakers didn't love him as much as they loved the Prime Minister Kishida, and he came in first among the party members in the last presidential election, but actually by far the fast. He came in first in the presidential election among the party members, but he came in second in the second round of the election, and then he now heads the PR department of the party, which is widely seen as sort of a demotion for him. However, he's making a situation, most out of the current situation. He's now making all kinds of reforms with the LDP's PR department. He's going to tell us about what he's doing. Some significant changes in the way LDP handles the PR, and it's going to affect the foreign press a lot in some ways too. So let's look forward to hearing that. But anyway, I'm sure we are looking forward to hearing what his next step is, because still he is the most likely to be the next prime minister of Japan. So maybe he will tell us what his strategies are. But anyway, so let me introduce Mr. Kono Taro. Before Kono-san's speech, Pio wants to make a comment. Yeah.
It's a funny comment, Kono Taro sensei. I think there is another reason why you didn't make it as prime minister. Because we invited you here at the club to talk as a candidate, and you didn't find the time while Kishida found it. So Kishida was elected and you lost. So next time, make sure you come. We bring luck.
Yeah, okay. Please, Mr. Kono.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you very much for invitation. And as a head of public relations, LDP, I'm very happy to make an announcement that we are setting up a special dedicated section for foreign journalists, foreign media. I think FCCJ used to be kind of off limit for the cabinet members during the Abe government. I think I was only one who came as a minister, but I'm showing up to tell you that our LDP is open to the foreign media and the foreign journalists. I named Nakanishi Kenji, who is newly elected to the lower house, but he used to be the member of the upper house. He used to work for JP Morgan, and he's quite fluent in English and in Japanese as well. So he will be setting up some kind of off-the-record briefing, on-the-record interview, and we are hoping to invite members of the leadership of LDP to talk to you regularly at LDP headquarters. So I asked Nakanishi-san to set up a procedure. So you will be notified, maybe through FCCJ, about the new procedures. And we will love to have you at LDP headquarters. Well, LDP was... Well, we have also international, so-called international bureau, and the international bureaus sometimes invite Japanese-speaking ambassadors or Japanese-speaking members of the embassies, and maybe some Japanese-speaking journalists from foreign countries. But we really haven't had a chance to do the briefing in English at the LDP headquarters, and I think it is necessary to tell you what we are thinking, we meaning the Kishida government or Liberal Democratic Party. Because of this Omicron thing, the government announced we are shutting down airport and everything, and it seems government is slightly making some changes. I hear from almost 150,000 foreign students who are waiting to come into Japan. They've been very frustrated. And I was talking to Monbusho about getting some quota from the government, like say 100 students a day, and we make sure those 100 people every day could come in and still go through quarantine, but then we can increase the number as people begin to see it's safe to let foreign students come in with a quarantine. But because of this Omicron thing, oh well, we are back to square one. But we are hoping to get those students inside Japan as soon as possible, hopefully before the next semester. So there are a lot of things we need to tell outside world what we are thinking so they can make some plans. Some businessmen, we are trying to welcome businessmen to come to Japan with 3-day quarantine. Well, because of the Omicron thing, it's postponed, but then I was told there are quite a few paperwork involved to get the quarantine for 3 days, and it's almost impossible to give authority 2-week schedule 3 weeks before they are arriving at Japan. So I told the digital ministry, digital agency, to get rid of the paperwork and do everything online and make it more realistic. And they just began to start working on it, and this new variant put hold on everything. But hopefully this Omicron thing go through. I think we can streamline the procedures for all those things. So that's what we are thinking. And also, as head of PR department, we are looking at the upper house election next summer. If LDP and Komeito coalition wins a majority next summer, there are going to be no national level election for next 3 years. So we can do a lot of things, maybe some constitutional amendment in those 3 years, it could be possible. So the summer next year going to be either, live or die for the coalition. So the first priority for me is to help LDP win the election next year. And then we also thinking about getting every politician, not the members of the parliament only, but local LDP politician to get them on social media. During the general election, I went around about 75 campaign districts to help 75 candidates. And when I told them when I could come, those who are on the Twitter regular basis, they could tweet, Kono Taro is coming next Sunday, 1 o'clock in front of this station and those things. But quite a few LDP politicians are not on the social media. So they have to actually come up with some kind of signboard and put it on district. So there's a huge difference. So we are trying to train the LDP politician at the national level, prefectural level, and the municipal level to get on the social network. I realize Komeito or even communist, they have a very good organization even on the social media to disseminate the information, and hopefully we can do that with LDP. So I'm planning to go around the 47 prefectures, talking to LDP local politician, and hopefully have a seminar in every single prefecture before the upper house election, so they can excel in use of social media as well. And we issue a newspaper. It's a weekly newspaper called Jiu Minshu. Well, we publish newspaper, but we don't sell too many copies. So I think we need to make some changes onto it. And we also, because this is a digital age, we do the digital newspaper as well. We are trying to go after Nikkei or Wall Street Journal or something. So when I was named the head of the PR department, and I heard about the digital Jiu Minshu, I asked people in charge in the headquarters, how many subscribers do we have for digital Jiu Minshu? And she told me, well, 28. So I said, 28,000? No, just the 28. Uh-oh. So we got to do something about that too. We also issue a monthly magazine called Libru. This is for mostly female supporters of LDP. It is a very good quality magazine, uses quality paper and very nice photos, but it makes a lot of deficit. So we need to do something about it. And so we have a printing department, and we need to modernize all those things. So there are quite a few challenges that I'm faced, and well, we'll see. We'll see about it. So let me stop here, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kono. So let's go to Q&A, and please raise your hand, and if you're designated, there are two microphones up front, so come up and cite your name and affiliation, and please limit your speech to questions only, not no statement, please. And Pio wants to start out the first question. Huh? Okay.
Well,
you go ahead.
About modernization, you mentioned your request to scrap all the paperwork and go digital. I come from a country that used to be very, very troglodyte, digitally speaking, and now we picked up, like you picked up with the vaccines. One of the initiatives that our government took was a kind of scrapping bonus for all companies and offices that would get rid of fax machine, for example, and change it into new computers or something like that. We use this also for old car. You know, you go give in your old car and you get a special bonus or discount. Do you think that this could be something practicable in Japan too? I mean, giving some money, some refund to all those who throw in the gomibako fax machines and the hankos?
Yeah, in order to go digital, we needed to get rid of hanko to begin with. There are several types of hanko. The one you register with municipal office, and whenever you put your official seal, you need to attach your certificate, and that tells you it's really you who actually put the hanko on the paper. But most of the hanko, it's called mitomein. Anyone can go buy a Daiso and pay 100 yen and get a kono and put it on. So it's totally useless. It's just putting it on. Someone told me, if I write down my name, Kono Taro, the hanko to go with, it doesn't have to be Kono. I can put the hanko has a jimbo on it and put it on, that's okay. So what the hell that for? And bureaucrat in Kasumigaseki said, well, it's important to put something on it. So the act matters, and what it actually says on hanko doesn't really matter. And I thought it's crazy. So I told them we need to get rid of it. So 99% of a hanko that you need to put it on the paper for the national government has been scrapped. But for the local government, it still remains, and the private sector, they still use it. So we are still drive to throw out a hanko. We need to continue that. Then I was trying to get rid of a fax machine, because when we told bureaucrats to go on telework, they gave me quite a few reasons why they are not able to do that. One of that is they have to receive fax machines, so they actually have to come. So I told all the ministry to get rid of them, And they gave me all those weird reasons why they are not able to throw out a fax. The National Police Agency said, well, email is not secure, so we have to use a fax machine for secure transmission. Yeah, crazy. But, you know, the things like that. So we really need to do things. And many ministries were telling me, because so many members of the parliament prefer fax to email, they have to continue using fax machine. So I'm trying to get rid of the fax machine from the LDP headquarters. But I don't know, those senior LDP bureaucrats prefer to use fax machine to emails. I don't understand the mentality. And because Kasumigaseki and LDP use fax machine, a lot of private company have to use fax machine for communication. So it's like a catch-22 situation. The Kasumigaseki people say, well, they use a fax machine in the private sector. We cannot get rid of them. But when I talk to the private sector, well, it's because Kasumigaseki want us to use fax machine. So I wanted to start out with Kasumigaseki to get rid of the fax machine and put it on the museum. A lot of ambassadors, especially ambassadors from Europe, are very glad to see fax machine actually in use, and they were, taking video and sending them to their family. This is how you use a fax machine. Kind of crazy.
Thank you.
Okay, next question. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Karine Nishimura from Libération newspaper in France, as well as Radio France. You said you will give more access to the foreign journalists to press event in the LDP with an international section. But does it also mean that you will give access to foreign journalists to the Japanese press conference also? It means not separate international media and Japanese media. That's the first question. And what is your position on the Kisha Club?
Thank you. Well, if I could make decisions, I would like to do one press conference. It'd be a lot easier. When I was a foreign minister, I think the foreign ministry's custom is to get everyone come to the press conference and ask me questions either in English or Japanese. And well, if that's the norm in LDP headquarters, I would definitely love to do that. Sometimes the press conference is run by the Kisha Club, and they limit who can come to the press conference. And usually, you have to be the member of the Kisha Club to do it. So if that's the case, it's sort of beyond my authority. So we would have to do it separately. So I will speak with LDP headquarters, how they are setting up. Well, actually, I think Nakanishi-san is already talking to. And if it's okay for foreign journalists to come to press conference, I would certainly love to do it. I don't know if you could ask questions in English or French or Spanish or Arabic. You may have to ask the question in Japanese, but you can always bring the interpreter if that is possible. So let me see how it's been done.
Okay, next question. Anyone from the floor? Okay, while you guys think about questions, why don't I just ask him one question? Kono-san, I have one question. I don't know, as a PR chief of the party, how much liberty you have to talk about the current government's policy, but on the energy policy of the current government. There was a COP26, and Japan was again, as you know, had the honor of receiving this fossil award twice in a row again. And what is your view of this Energy Gihon Keikaku, the sixth strategy energy plan? And in view of this COP26 and international attention to Japan's coal power generation, do you think this sixth strategic energy plan should still stand as it is? It has been approved by the cabinet, but it's not adopted yet. So, you think Japan should still stay with it, or Japan should reconsider this plan? What's your view?
Well, this new energy strategy has been debated under the Suga government and approved by the Kishida cabinet. It says for the first time the renewable energy get the highest priority, and carbon neutrality by 2050. So, well, I think we should pursue the goal with this energy policy. We definitely need to get rid of coal and oil, and eventually gas. Natural gas is cleaner than coal and oil, but it's still got a carbon dioxide emission, so the natural gas should be faded away in mid-run. Well, I think we definitely need to increase the renewable energy, and well, the energy strategy clearly says the renewable energy get the highest priority. So the matter is how we're going to implement that. There are still some people in METI who are not comfortable with the idea of increase in renewable energy. I don't know what they are thinking. Definitely, coal is not an alternative. And METI still wants to give government subsidy or government assistance to the coal export. But who wants to buy the coal power plant at this moment? I mean, it would probably a big deficit in the long run. So, well, I mean, Japan used to be #1 in photovoltaic not long ago, but now we lost competitiveness in this field, and we no longer have a wind turbine industry in Japan anymore, which also used to be #1. So the wrong policy by the government sort of destroyed two growing industries. Now we are talking about increase in renewable energy, but we don't have proper industry left in Japan. So we get a lot of offer from European wind turbine companies to do the joint venture and things, and we are welcoming that. We're also trying to develop new types of photovoltaic. It's a very thin one, or something you can put it on the road. So hopefully we can be competitive with new technology, and hopefully the government wouldn't get wrong policy in this field. So I'm very much looking forward to 2030 and 2050.
So you're saying we have to wait till the coming of the Kono administration till we can really set the energy policy straight. And why is it so difficult? I mean, why only you are willing to stand up and say this, and other politicians don't? I mean, can you kind of give us an idea why you are the only one who can say that?
Well, I don't think I'm the only one. Like
very few.
Prime Minister Suga declared carbon neutrality by 2050, and Koizumi-san was a very strong supporter of the idea. We got quite a few LDP members that we need to put emphasis on renewable energy to achieve carbon neutrality and tackle the climate crisis. METI is still egghead, and they are not able to see the change in time. So, and the major power companies or large corporations in Keidanren still skeptical about carbon neutrality or something. But everyone else, I mean, on this planet moving that way. So if we trying to resist, we would further lose the competitiveness. I mean, renewable energy is now the cheapest source of energy in many countries. And they don't have to pay for the fuel. And as crude oil cost goes up, if we rely on fossil fuel, our industry will lose the competitiveness. So either you like it or not, you have to move on to the renewable as soon as possible.
Okay. Pio, go ahead.
I have two questions from online. The first one is from New York Times. I think you touched already upon this, but maybe you can elaborate a little bit more. Well, basically, thank you very much for coming to speak to us. Can you tell us whether you have suggested the admission of 100 international students a day since the emergency of Omicron variant or before? How likely do you think the borders will be reopened to students?
Okay. Well, the government had a quota for 3,500,
yes.
something like that.
But
But
plan to have 5,000.
right, and they were going to include 5,000, but the quota was actually set for 3,500. We really didn't have 3,500 people coming in. Probably around 3,000 or even 2,000. So there was a space. So I told Mumbusho to get some quota for the students, because I get complaint from universities that
Yes.
those students who got the COE, certificate of entrance or whatever, but they still
Eligibility. Yeah.
they still have to wait in line,
Yes.
and every day there were like only handful, maybe one digit could come in, and it would take century to, and they would definitely be too old. So I said, well, we have to do some kind of planning ahead. So why don't we start out with 100 students? And I asked the foreign, Mumbusho, to get 1,000 hotel rooms around Narita or Haneda airport. So as 100 students come in, they could stay for 10 days in a hotel, take the PCR testing every day to make sure that they're not infected. So it's okay for them to go free afterwards. And then we can increase the number of the students as Mumbusho could get more hotel rooms somewhere. So it's not practical to ban entry for everyone. It's important to go through the quarantine and testing. I mean, some people say 10 days too long, but it's better. It's better than banning everyone from entry. So Mumbusho was kind of agreed with me, and they were actually talking inside the government to get 100 student quota. And then this Omicron thing suddenly came up. So
your request was before?
Before that.
Yeah. Well, just to, if I may add up what's happening, for example, in my country, this ban is causing a huge surge of enrollment to Korean studies for next year in Italy University, and drop of Japanese studies. So this is a very bad development for Japan made abroad.
It is.
Now, the second question is from our former President Isabel Reynolds from Bloomberg actually is a question that I think all of us journalists would ask jointly. You mentioned the Kisha Club. You said that if it depends from you, you would open up. But that some of conferences are organized by the Kisha Club. Now, the century question. Is it right for the Kisha Club to run press conferences? Why can't you just take the lead and make the party decide itself who may attend?
It's probably better for like ministry to hold a press conference and just invite everyone. And then I think if it's made public during the press conference, I think some ministry obviously wants to give chance to ask questions to the major Japanese media, because NHK or other TV station, Nikkei, they are the major carrier of the news. So they wanted to give them better opportunity. I think it would be natural to think it that way. So for some ministry, if Kisha Club, which has a major newspaper and major television station, if they hold a press conference, it'll be a lot easier. Then they can say, well, it's press club or Kisha Club holding the press conference. Well, we would love to invite you, but it's a good excuse to limit the number of the journalists. So unless the other way is to open up and invite those media, the registered media, whether domestic or foreign. I think that's one way of doing it.
That's what happens at the Kantei. Okay.
So Kantei is slowly going to that direction, and maybe other ministry would follow.
I think that Isabel's main question was, the meaning of the question was, why a leader like you, who has evidently some jishin, could take the lead and, starting with your new role, try to talk or even impose to these Kisha clubs, look, you are like faxes and Hanko, you are obsolete.
Yeah, well, I mean, foreign ministry is open to everyone now, so.
Yeah. Khaldun?
Thank you, Concern, for coming to the club. Khaldun Azhari, Arab News Japan, Parliament News. My question is your PR post involve foreign relations of LDP? Do you have the assignment of improving the image of LDP, for example, in North Korea and in China or somewhere else? That's my question. Thank you.
No, what do you mean? I don't quite get it.
I mean, PR for the LDP. You talked about Japan, inside Japan. Do you have also a mission to improve the LDP PR image outside Japan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I'm inviting you over.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Sorry, I'm not good at English, so please let me question in Japanese. 上海東宝テレビ東京支局駐在記者です。そうと申します。本日の報道をご覧になったと思いますが、安倍前総理の発言で日中関係がまた厳しくなっておりまして、自民党本部、直面されているその課題として、どんな対応策考えられていますか。そして来年、国交正常化50周年なんですけど、河野先生は どんな気持ちで、この50周年、日中両方ともお互いとも大切なこの50周年を、迎えしたいんでしょうか。以上です。
Sorry, Kono sensei. Jimbo, can you just wrap up in English this? For those
Sure. Well, she was just asking because of some remarks by former Prime Minister Abe, the China-Japan relation is going sour nowadays, and as the Japan-China is going into the 50th anniversary of their establishment of their relations. What is your position? What you're looking forward? Something like that. 大丈夫ですね。それでね。はい。
Well, China for last 30 years has been increasing spending on defense, or not defense, maybe military spending. It has increased 42-fold in the last 30 years. Their forces are growing. They're deploying a lot of missiles that could reach Japan. So, and Chinese aircraft is now going into airspace of Taiwan quite often. And a lot of people are worried about Chinese use of force against Taiwan. So what former Prime Minister Abe said is nothing special. If China use forces against Taiwan, whether we like it or not, Japan will be affected. So we need to be prepared for the situation. So what Prime Minister said is, I think it's our natural concern. And we need to work with United States and other countries, maybe Quad or AUKUS, or quite a few European countries have been sending their naval forces to South China Sea, East China Sea. They are concerned with the situation in the Taiwan Strait. So we need to tell China that they cannot continue to attempt to change the status quo with military forces. And if they do, they need to pay very high cost. And there's nothing wrong with it. And well, China has been trying to come through our territorial water around the Senkaku continuously, and that doesn't help the bilateral relationship get better. So they need to know what they are doing, and I think the international community, I think we are not going to overlook Chinese activity to infringe international law or trying to change the status quo.
We have, I think, Peter there. Yes, anyway, Peter and Rocky.
Yeah, just in case the former Prime Minister Abe's remarks is he said the emergency Taiwan means the emergency for the U.S.-Japan alliance, and Xi Jinping should not underestimate that. That was the statement the former Prime Minister Abe made yesterday. That was the remarks that lady was referring to. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Peter Langen at SCMP, South China Morning Post. Excuse me. I have a follow-up question on that issue. Mr. Abe's comments included a statement that it would be economic suicide for China to attempt any military occupation or invasion of Taiwan, which I thought was interesting because we often think of this situation as being a military one. But does Japan have any sort of trade sanctions or anything in its arsenal that it would use against China if such a military conflict took place? Thank you.
Well, if China actually tried to use forces against Taiwan, it will probably lead to a very dire situation. So it will probably be not limited to the economic sanction only. So I think the global community need to let China know that they would have to pay very high cost for that. That probably would include some kind of economic actions. China has been using economic tools against, well, they recently banned some fruits coming from Taiwan to China. They have done that with Norwegian salmon, the bananas and other fruits coming from Taiwan and the Philippines. They also once banned rare earth export to Japan. So they have used economic tools to on the political issues. And well, when we invited China to WTO, we thought, although they have a different political system, they would be a good international player. And well, it didn't go that way, unfortunately. So, well, some kind of economic action may be involved if China tried to do something against the international rules or international norms. I wouldn't be surprised. Sure.
I was thinking more in terms of, if we go back to the Second World War and the outbreak, there was an oil embargo put on Japan, which in some arguments historically is what prompted that disaster to take place. So is there anything of that nature that Japan has discussed with the United States or other allies of how it would react to such an attack on Taiwan by China? Thank you.
I don't quite understand your analogy. If China used forces against Taiwan, it has nothing to do with pre-war situation of Japan.
Okay, Rocky?
Thank you, Rocky Soto with Reuters. The first 9 or 10 months of the year, you were involved in the vaccine push, and over that time, Japan went from being one of the slowest, among the developed nations to now being amongst the most vaccinated. In fact, the most vaccinated among the G7. I was just wondering if you could just sort of reflect on that time in terms of lessons learned for you personally and for the government, and what you sort of see as the future as Japan now starts its booster shot campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, last July, I think, it was way before I was named the vaccine minister. Pfizer was going to start the international clinical test. And I think Japan also wanted to be part of it. But then the number of the COVID patient in Japan was like 2-digit less than Europe or United States. So Pfizer thought it would simply just take a long time if they do the clinical testing in Japan. So they excluded Japan from the international clinical test, but they knew that we are going to use Pfizer vaccine. So what they did is they got either 140 or 160, 100-something Japanese, like Japanese students and the Japanese businessmen who came from Japan to United States. They gather those Japanese students, Japanese businessmen and their family, and they included them in the clinical test in US. And they submitted the result of that to health ministry here. And then health ministry said that those Japanese in United States and those Japanese in Japan are eating different things. Crazy. I mean, we eat a hamburger and pizza here and drink Coca-Cola, and they eat the sushi and ramen in the United States. So how different could that be? So they had to do the 100-some clinical testing in Japan on Japanese, and that delayed the 3 months of start. And as we started vaccination in February, the Pfizer capacity was really overstretched. So they wanted to add another production line. So the existing line was put on hold for a while to set it up a new line. So the supply was quite limited. So I was negotiating with Pfizer, and we wanted to start serious vaccination from Golden Week. And Pfizer decided to, do something about it. So at the beginning, we are supposed to get the 14 million doses by the end of April, but we negotiated. We got nearly 40 million doses before the Golden Week. So as May started, we picked up, and that's number one. Number two, the health ministry wanted to control everything, and I said, well, that cannot be done. I mean, it was a job of the municipality. And the largest city is Yokohama, got nearly 4 million. The smallest one is Aogashima, got a population of 120, 130. So we have to let the city, we have to let the mayor control what they are trying to do. So my job was to beat up health ministry and shut them up and let the mayor take control. And that's how they pick up the speed. And probably we hit 1.8 million nearly a day, sometime in June, July time period. So the lesson learned is we have to have a different system for emergency. The inoculation law that we apply was just a regular inoculation, and we had to use a law for emergency things. And if we let the mayors do things, we really give them authority to do whatever they want. So I told them they need to control the temperature of the vaccine, and they need to keep the lot number of vaccine, and they have to type in the record to their system. And if they do those three, the rest is free for them. That was my policy. And then the health ministry always wanted to set up expert panel. I mean, that delayed the decision. I mean, they are delaying the booster decision right now. It's because health ministry doesn't want to be responsible for decisions. So they always set up this expert panel, and they always ask them to make decisions. The expert panel may know about the vaccine or virus, but they know about the operation. So they don't consider what they like to be delaying the decision, what kind of impact their delay on the decision has on the actual operation in the field. So I was always sort of going after health ministry to make decisions. Forget about the expert panel. But they're still doing it. And that's something we need to really consider.
Well, a solution would be for the health minister to nominate you as advisor of the scientific panel.
I've done enough.
Kono-san, what did you find behind this fixation, obsession of control everything by the health ministry? Why do they want to? What did you think they want to control everything? And even though they knew they couldn't do it.
I think inertia. That's how they've been doing things. So they always feel the need to tell mayors what to do. And actually, that's not a good policy. And secondly, they have been sued. There was a lot of legal cases against the government, and the government sometimes lost the suit. And actually, some director of the health ministry was held personally responsible for that. So they always wanted to avoid taking responsibility at the health ministry. So I think the politicians need to cover for them.
There.
Hi, Noah Snyder from The Economist. Thank you, Kono-san, for coming to speak with us. I was wondering, the LDP leadership election was often described as a generational contest. There was lots of talk about generational change. You clearly had a lot of support amongst younger members in the LDP. If or when generational change does happen in the LDP, what do you think it will mean? I mean, what does your generation and the generation of lawmakers younger than you, what do you want to do differently from your seniors, other than getting rid of fax machines, for example?
Thank you very much. Well, the current parliamentary system is kind of obsolete. You know, when the government put the law or budget to the parliament, it's already prefixed. So the opposition could only delay the decision. If they delay a budget for a day, that's 1 point for the opposition, and that's crazy. So I think we really need to negotiate, and if they have better plan, I think we should include that in the budget. And if they have a good amendment, I think we should make amendment to the bill. So whether you really wanted to do something in the parliament, or it just put the seal on paper, I think that is a big difference. And I think the younger generation wanted to be more receptive to the general public and do things right.
Thank you.
I still have one question from online, and then Karin wants to have a follow-up. You can stay 5 minutes more.
Sure.
Okay, this is from Elgin Yurulmaz, BBC World Turkish. You mentioned making better use of resources under your authority, but Japan is notorious in wasting half of its most valuable resource, which is human resource, specifically the Japanese women. What should we expect Kishida government to do differently about women's employment in Japan, for example?
Well, actually, the female participation rate in Japan is higher than the United States. But the issue is they are not hired regular basis. And there's a big discrepancy in wages between the regular hire and non-regular hire. Yes. And many female workers are non-regularly hired. And that's why the female income is much lower than the male. So number one, we need to iron out the difference between hiring system. Sometimes you wanted to do the regular hours, but men or women, or sometimes you have to take care of your aging parents, or sometimes you have to take care of your children and you wanted to work short hours. And I think we need to change the system to allow people to be able to choose working shorter hours and still on the wage scale. I mean, if you work less, I mean, your pay would be less accordingly. Yeah. But right now, the difference is quite big, and you lose a lot of privilege, and that's not good. And if we could fix that, that alone would make big difference, because a lot of women are now working on a non-regular hire basis. Yeah. So that is the first thing we need to do.
Karin, you want to follow up? Or a new question, I don't know.
Very short question. Why PCR tests in Japan are still not free for all, like it is the case in other countries? And the second question is also, we have the impression that for Japanese people, part of Japanese people, and maybe for LDP, the danger is not coming from the virus, but from the foreigners who enter the country. What is your impression on that?
Well, I think this coronavirus came from outside of Japan, right? So something coming from outside of Japan, it got stigma. I don't think people are discriminating against the foreigners. I mean, foreigners living in Japan and the Japanese coming from outside. I mean, who has more chance of getting, say, Omicron? I think there's no argument about it. About the PCR testing, yes, well, PCR is important, but there's antigen testing as well. Antigen testing is much cheaper.
2000.
Well, it should be much, much cheaper, I think. And antigen testing takes less time. So I'm trying to, support those labs to come up with cheaper and shorter testing time antigen test. PCR is good, but you have to go to the machine for the PCR testing. So the cost and time, I mean, there's a limit what you can do with it. So I think we need to increase the number of testing so that we can isolate those who got the virus and prevent them spreading the virus. So how we can increase the number of the testing inside Japan is quite important, I think.
Mr. Kono, allow me just, okay, one question doesn't relate to Jiminto PR, but certainly regards the Japanese government. And I believe that maybe you can help us in this. As you know, a couple of days ago, it was officially announced that there is a Japanese mother, spouse of a French citizen, that has been reached by a red tape, by a red alert from Interpol for kidnapping the kids. As far as I know, this is the first case for such kind of crime. If you have any comment on this, as over that, if you could help as PR responsible of your party to convince the Ministry of Justice and the police department to please come and explain to us what they intend to do.
Yeah, I think we need to make distinction between parent and child running away from domestic violence and parents getting divorced and children wants to see both father and mothers. In Japan, there are quite a few cases of mother and children running away from violent father, and they need to be sort of separated. They need to be protected, and but there are quite a few also cases that are the parents getting divorced and the kids need to see them both, yes, or the both parent wanted to see their kid. So we need to make distinction, and I think the right of each parent to see children are important, and I think we need to honor that in Japan as well.
Well, this is certainly not the case of DV because they are not yet even divorced. So
right,
it's just execution of an international red warrant. Okay, Mr. Kono, just one last.
I'm running out of time.
Yes, but
Okay,
you are the chief of Twitter in Japan. You are the big boss. Is there any constitutional or political opportunity ban for the imperial members, house members, to go and tweet in Japan? What about, the Queen of England does it?
Does she?
Yes, yes.
Oh.
She has an account. The Pope has an account. The Queen of Belgium, Norway, they have. Would you theoretically, catene, object to Prince Akishino tweet?
I don't think there's any constitutional or legal ban on members of imperial family to go on Twitter.
Okay.
So if I don't know if Empress wanted to tweet, that'd be great.
Thank you very much.
Well, I guess it's difficult. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Kono. Kono-san, I think your guest membership is about to expire, so here's a new one. Thank you very much. Okay. Well, thank you again. Come back again. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, please remain seated.
Thank you very much.
コノさん、じゃあちょっとまた。
はい。